Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Saturday, April 26th, 2025, and today we are going to be talking about a brand new Fox News poll where they gauged the American public where they stood on their view of the Democratic and Republican parties, as well as their view of President Donald Trump. Now, the numbers I'm focused on today aren't necessarily the approval rating numbers for the administration or the way that the American public views things like DOGE, immigration, foreign relations. I'm more focused, as the title can suggest, on what the Fox News poll isn't putting in their headline, which is a strong lead for Democrats in the 2026 generic ballot. What you would take away from the Fox News headline on this is that Democrats' favorability hits a new low, but still they are favored over the GOP. But the extent in which they are favored is actually more than what the same Fox News poll found 8 years ago today, when they released their survey in April of 2017. And the reason why that is notable is because Donald Trump's first term was very different than this second term. We already know that the way that Donald Trump and his administration are going to navigate the next 4 years is going to be fundamentally different. But in terms of the way the American public viewed it, it was a lot more negative the first time around. And when it was a lot more negative, the expectation is and has been that as voters disapprove of the job that the president is doing, they become more likely to vote for the opposition party. But back in 2017, Donald Trump's approval rating was far lower than it is today. But not to a greater degree that it was maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And I think when you're looking at what this Fox News poll actually tells us, I think that the favorability rating of the Democratic Party is notable to some degree, absolutely. But the fact remains, Democrats lead Republicans in the generic ballot in this survey by 7 percentage points, despite their favorability ratings. Enough so that it is larger than the lead that Democrats had 8 years ago. Those things matter. Because the 2018 midterm elections are a perfect example of what an actual 7-point national victory might look like for Democrats. After the 2024 House elections, Democrats were just 3 seats away from winning back House control. The House majority has gotten no larger than for the Democratic Party at 222 seats. Taking a look at the House election results from 2018, Democrats would love to have a House map that looks like this one. Why? It's a lot more bluer than it is red in comparison to the last election. Granted, way more Republican large districts, but 235 seats for the Democratic Party, 199 for the Republican Party. Democrats gained 40 seats largely because they won this popular vote margin by roughly 7 to 8 points. That's what Fox News might be suggesting, and it is remarkable in multiple ways that despite the way that voters view the party, Democrats are still on top. Republicans have been parading these talking points that they are in a position where voters are disapproving of the Democratic Party, and it speaks to their level of electability and ability to win over the favor of the American public. But that's not what the data is suggesting. The approval rating on the Democratic Party might be at an all-time low, and it very much is right now. But the generic congressional ballot really hasn't wavered from them in any of the recent data points we've been looking at. This doesn't even include the most recent Fox News poll, which is what this entire video is about, that shows the 7-point lead, which would undoubtedly raise this average in favor of the Democratic Party. That 7-point delta between Democrats and Republicans is something that cannot be ignored, and it comes right at a time where Fox News shows that in the first 100 days of Donald Trump's second term, I know we talked about how Donald Trump's approval rating is at a higher point today than it was 8 years ago, but Fox News actually contradicts that. And what I think it also might be indicating is that in the coming days, we are likely going to reach a convergence point where Donald Trump's approval rating is dropping at potentially even a faster rate than his first term. That come May 1st, there may be a level where Donald Trump's approval rating from 2017, as bad as it was because it never recovered between the time that he started his presidency and ended it, not a single point where he was more approved of than disapproved nationwide after that 2-week honeymoon period. We could potentially see, because of the tariffs, because of all these things that are happening across the globe, because of the way that Donald Trump is going about using this executive authority, arresting judges, revoking student visas, having an assault against freedom of speech on college campuses and across the country. What Fox News finds is that in comparison to Trump 1, and in comparison to Biden, in comparison to Obama, in comparison to Bush, Donald Trump is lower. His approval rating was up at 49 just in March, 5 points down in a month. So Trump 1 was at 45, Joe Biden was at 54, Obama was at 62, and Bush was at 63. Today, Trump stands at 44. And when it comes down to the job performance for Donald Trump, he's pretty much in the negative on everything but border security, which we talked about in recent videos, is the saving grace for this administration, that voters still approve of the job they do on the border. But take a look. Immigration, negative. Deportations, negative. Guns, negative. Foreign policy, whopping 14-point negative net. The economy, right, 18 points. That is what Donald Trump ran on, promised he'd do, and it worked for the election. It worked to win the presidential. But in terms of execution, doesn't seem to be working. Let's continue. Taxes in the negative. Tariffs in the negative by 25 points. And inflation, 26 points. Two of the most unpopular issues for Donald Trump: inflation, which he said he would solve on day one, and tariffs, which he implemented on day one. Decision after decision after decision from this administration is jeopardizing the GOP's ability to win and retain a number of seats that are going to be up this next election cycle. And as Trump's approval rating goes from just a few months ago at plus 12 nationwide down to negative 8 today, a 20-point difference in 3 months. We are less than 100 days into this second administration, and Donald Trump has gone from again plus 12 to negative 8 nationwide. We are getting to a point that truly in a few days, Trump's approval is going to be that of which it was in 2017, which is a very, very low point, because that was supposed to be something that this Trump admin was going to be able to deflect from, that voters were not going to push back on them the same way. That's why this whole mandate that he came in with 7 out of the 7 swing states, winning the national popular vote for the Republican Party for the first time since 20 years ago in 2004 was the last time Republicans won the national popular vote. Coincidentally, it was the last time they also won Nevada, a state that has been very troublesome for Republicans. But my point is that Trump came in with a mandate. He came in with a favorability rating that was largely in the positive by the time he started office. More voters said they had a favorable view of Trump on Inauguration Day than an unfavorable one. That was a massive, massive win for the former president, or now the incumbent president, because when you take a look at the way it was in Trump 1, very negative, but then when he won, people gave him a chance. And then they said, yeah, you blew it. Didn't reelect him, blew out Republicans in the midterms. But you can see that when it came down to the way that voters viewed Trump, there was that point where it got close right before he started, and it just tanked and tanked and tanked. And while today he stands in a better position than he did in 2017, like I said, it might be a few days before you get to that point. But he's in the negative at plus negative 6.1%. And that matters because it shows a reversion in the way that voters who gave Donald Trump a second chance and largely wanted him more than they wanted him the first time. But now they're deciding to sour on him, and with him, the National Republican Party. And so when I think about the fact that the 2018 elections were ushered in on a same type of margin, that at which the Fox News poll is suggesting, and that Democrats are actually polling higher today than they were in 2017, really puts things into perspective. Because the Fox News poll, one, as a conservative-leaning outlet, actually does have some very high-quality results. And their numbers here, Donald Trump was very upset with. He, called out Fox News and the Murdoch family and said they were rigging their polls. His reaction to it was very negative. very unwilling to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, the way Donald Trump is taking on issues and implementing decisions and having executive overreach in a way that voters are clearly negatively responding to. And that's why Donald Trump is losing an approval rating at a very high rate. When you draw this out over months, you're talking about an average of a 6 to 7 point decline. Arguably even, right? You're talking about, on the upper end, nearly a 7-point decline. Month after month after month on that net approval. And when you take a look at it too, you can see there was a lot more green than there was orange. And then it flipped. And then it just simply hasn't recovered, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And we're at this point too, where there may not be enough polls overlapping the approve and disapprove. And that it keeps the disapprove well above the approve. And you're finding that Donald Trump is starting a very bad trend for the GOP. Because Donald Trump has no more elections left to win. And what we know is when he's on the ballot, there are a significant number of voters who will turn out for him that will not turn out for Republicans. Combine that with a disillusioned America viewing the Republican Party as enabling a president they largely disapprove of. And that's what I think drives voters to Democrats in ways that maybe it even didn't the first time around. Now, Fox News showing an advantage for Democrats larger this time around than 8 years ago is an outlier. Fox News is still an A-rated pollster with high-quality results. And it is notable in the least bit that Fox News' poll is finding these results. And so I'd keep a close eye on Donald Trump's approval rating. I'd keep a close eye on the way that Americans view Donald Trump's first 100 days and following months and years. Because the American public seems to be souring on a president they thought they could give a chance a second time around. But evidently, based on their numbers, they were wrong, and they disapprove of the job that he's doing. And like I said, it'll just be a few days before Donald Trump's approval rating is largely on par with what it was in the first term, which eventually led to Democrats winning special elections, winning back control of the House, and eventually back control of the White House, the Senate, and a Democratic trifecta 4 years later. So, keep an eye. Watch the numbers. Watch as they fluctuate. Watch as Donald Trump continues to move down this pathway. Because right now we're not seeing any upper signs for this second administration. And that matters a lot as elections come up in 6 months in Virginia and New Jersey. And about a year and a half from now in the midterms, chances are Donald Trump's approval rating won't be that much higher than either. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video for you to watch, and then a playlist for my 2026 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.